Hey everybody, you're in the machine. Traveling can be so much fun, but it can be stressful and hard on the body, especially during busy seasons. Here are a few little moves you can sneak in while you're on the road, both standing and seated, to help you feel great when you get to your destination. Let's do it. Okay, first off, yes, I am usually this slobby when I travel. I want to be comfortable while I'm on the road. I'm not trying to impress the flight attendant or the Uber driver or whatever. Secondly, we're going to try to sneak these poses in. Do not be a kook at the airport or the bus station or whatever, trying to bust out a full-on dancer's pose in front of everybody. They'll just think you're a nut and you'll give yoga an even worse reputation. What we're going to do are some standing movements followed by some seated. If you want the seated, fast forward a little bit. If you want both, let's do it. First off, we're going to try to move the spine a little bit, because standing in one place or walking at a weird pace or reaching and moving around can be a little rough on the spine. For me, it's always the low back. Let's start by getting rid of our neck pillow. I don't actually use these. Somebody just thought it would look cool. I want a kind of an arch in the back without doing this wild back bend. And it's so simple. Standing in line, waiting to get my ticket or whatever, I'm just gonna lift my chest up. Imagine the sternum pulling upward. As you do that, your scapula will automatically come together and you'll get a little back bend out of it, and you can be kind of sneaky. So super easy. Imagine the way you would lead with your chest if you were doing a back bend. Just lift it upward. So I'm standing here like as if there's a chain hook to my sternum, pulls me up. A little bit of a back bend, some compression in the middle and low back. Scapula go together, moves me in a way that I'm probably not going to move for a while if I'm seated in a car, on an airplane, or whatever. That's one. We're going to move down the body from top to bottom. Secondly, little self-hug to get the scapula stretched and separated. Super easy. Wrap once, wrap twice, reach for your shoulder blades, and then drive the middle of your back away like you're doing a cat type movement. But we're not going to completely stretch out and look all weird. Little self-hug. Kind of the same sensation you would get if you were wrapping an eagle pose, but we don't want to look too bizarre. Little self-hug, drive that middle of the back away, look around, make sure nobody thinks you're a nut, and then casually switch sides. Little self-hug, drive away. You want to separate the scapula because you're going to be stuck jammed up in a seat for a while in all likelihood. Once you have the grip, claw those fingers into the shoulder blades and then push back. Ooh, feels good. Little side body bending. We're not going to reach up and do a full standing half moon. Imagine you got a really deep pocket and you're just reaching down to find that change. Feels pretty good. Got to see if there's any change in the other pocket. Reaching down to find that change. You do these as many times as you want. I try to work from the top down, and every few steps or every few minutes I try to do a couple depending on what's kind of uncomfortable. Still moving down, going to work the tailbone just like we would in mountain pose or a lot of our postures, but we're not going to get like super obvious with our hands out. All we're going to do is tuck it. So imagine you're scooping that tailbone under your body, minimizing the space from the tops of the hips to the bottom of the ribs. So standing here, I just kind of do this. And it's almost like I got bad posture for a second, but I'm tucking that tailbone. A lot of times we get tired when we're walking and traveling. Stomach gets a little bit lazy, the butt starts to poke out. That's when the low back pain sets in. So tucking it under, just like we would in mountain pose, but we're not gonna do the rest of the postures, okay? Here's a really sneaky one. We want to round the spine without looking like a nut, so I check my shoelaces. Little step forward, bend that front knee, rounding down. This is the key. I'm going to rest my stomach on my thigh so we're nice and rounded here. Relaxing, letting some traction set in. You should feel pretty much like a cat. Check my laces, check my sandals, pull up my socks, whatever. Now straighten the leg for the hamstring and come up nice and easy. Other side, we always want to do both sides in yoga. Step that opposite foot forward, little bend in the leg. Reach down, rest the stomach on the thigh, round it over. Check those laces, double knots, fix your buckles, fix your socks, straighten that leg, and then rise up for the hamstring. Here's a bonus if you're getting a little bit frisky and you don't mind somebody seeing you on one leg. Quad stretch is a really hard one to get because you're not moving in a way that's going to stretch that quad at all when you're walking standing, sitting. We're just gonna quickly pick up that foot, that's all. If you're rich like me and you have a fancy suitcase with a handle, use that as a balance. Pick it up. Now tuck the tailbone again and drive the knee down as you give a little tug with your bicep. Check around, make sure no one's watching. Hold it as long as you want until they call your name or whatever. Of course, switch sides. Pick it up really quick. Snap. Drive the knee down, back in line with the other knee, and tuck that tailbone. There you go. This will help you feel so much better when you get to wherever you're going because you won't be stuck in a weird position that you're not used to. So really quick, lifting the chest, that gives us a little arch, a little backwards movement of the spine. Hugging the body, that separates the scapula. That's something we're not gonna do while we're seated. Reaching into the pocket, little side bending. Of course, we do it in each direction, moving down the body. We tuck that tailbone and just hang out, engaging the stomach muscles a little bit, rounding the back and getting into the hamstring is a quick inspection of the shoes. Round it down, rest the stomach on the thigh. Check it out, straighten as you come up. Of course, on both sides, if you're really feeling frisky, you pick up that foot, drive the knee down and tuck the tailbone. Okay, not all traveling is standing and walking. Most of it's probably sitting, so we're about to board that plane or get on that bus or whatever you do. Okay, we've boarded the plane, we're on the bus, we're sitting in the Uber, whatever the case is. The problem when you're sitting is that there's almost no movement at all. Sometimes you get real squirmy and you can't be comfortable. That's because the body's used to moving even when we sleep. And when you're frozen still, stuck in a small seat, it's a little bit hard to do. We're gonna start from the top down because it's easy to remember and because we tend to carry a lot of stress and emotion in the shoulders and the neck. So nice and easy. Even if you're driving, you can do this as long as you're comfortable driving one-handed. We're gonna try to get a little stretch through the side of the neck and the trap. The key to this though is not like folding over or letting one shoulder chase you. I wanna sit totally upright and then I'm gonna take one ear, usually the opposite of the one that I'm gripping, and I'm gonna pull it away from the other shoulder. So let's say I am driving or I'm sitting in the airplane or whatever. I wanna pull this way and then pull in the opposite direction with that shoulder so I'm not chasing myself. So from here, chin off the chest, head on straight, nice and easy, ear to the side. If you let that shoulder come with you, there won't be much stretch. So keep pulling this elbow down as you drive the other ear to the opposite shoulder. Easy little stretch. None of this is rocket science, but it does help when you get where you're going. Of course, we do the other side, pulling down with this shoulder as we pull over with the opposite ear. Feels pretty good. This is not a really common movement. Usually when we turn the neck this way, the shoulder comes with it. So this is a stretch a lot of people don't get. Moving down to the shoulders, we want to work the scapula a little bit. So this is super simple. Again, even if you're driving, we take the hand, point it forward, but I leave the rest of the back. I'm not trying to lean in. I'm staying, leaving the right shoulder, reaching the left to really separate that scapula. Imagine like you're doing like one side of a cat pose, and I'm trying to drop the shoulder down. So as I reach, I don't jam it. I drop it and push forward. If there's a seat in front of you or whatever, just bring the hand back and drive the elbow instead. You should feel a separation on one side. Switch hands on the wheel or put your book in your other hand or your phone or whatever. And hand forward, up, shoulder height. Reach forward, feel that separation. Keep the rest of the body where it is. Pull it back, reach forward, shoulder down. If you need to move your hand out of the way, it's the exact same movement for the scapula. Do these as many times as you want to. It also kind of helps pass the time if you're on a long, boring flight or whatever. A few cat-cows now to keep the spine moving. So I sit way back in the chair, and I don't do this big old rollover. I just drive the middle of my back, the thoracic portion of the spine, into the backrest. And then I pull that portion away from the backrest. And I drive it into the backrest and away from the backrest. So you want to kind of replicate the movement of a cat and a cow, but you're not going to get that huge travel through the spine. I'm just driving it back. Of course, that'll cause me to tuck the tailbone, and then I pull it away as the tailbone pushes back into the seat. Many cats and cows as you want, you'll feel so much better. Another problem in sitting is that the hips don't roll like they would when we're walking. So this one is great. I'm just gonna crunch the side and imagine I'm lifting one butt cheek up off the chair. Again, even if you're driving, this is pretty easy. Pull this way. So don't fold over. Keep your torso upright and imagine you're lifting that hip towards your ribs. So I'm here and I pull. Kind of like maybe you got a toot. That's my son's joke, but lifting one cheek, setting it back down, lifting the other cheek, setting it back down. We're just getting some sideways movement in the spine by tilting the pelvis. So leaving the body, pull it up like a little side crunch, let it go, pull it up like a little side crunch. Now for a little more movement of the thighs, we're gonna knock the knees. Even if you're driving, one foot on the pedal, you can still do this. Don't just squeeze them together. Imagine internally rotating your thighs. So if my feet are free, I kind of pigeon my toes, point them toward one another as the heels go out. And then I push the knees together and not just squeeze, but imagine rotating to get a little movement in that hip socket. Super easy to do. You can do it as intensely or as calmly as you want, but imagine you're internally rotating. Like if there was room for your foot, you would point it in. Okay? Lastly, external rotation. We're just going to kind of put a frog position or duck feet. So heels together, toes out. And then I want to imagine externally rotating, like I'm driving my groin forward and back. And these you can kind of alternate. Internal rotation, pigeon toes. External rotation, duck feet. Remember, if you had room in front of you, which you probably don't if you're riding coach like me, your foot would go out and you would just turn it away. Okay? So really quick review, top down, ears over, stretch the side of the neck, reach to pull the scapula away, both sides of course. Cats and cows, just imagine that movement without being quite as extreme. Drive the middle of the spine, pull the middle of the spine. Butt lifts or toot yoga, pull up with one cheek without leaning over to it. Just imagine you're trying to get that pelvis to rock side to side. And knocking the knees, internal rotation, and then duck feet, external rotation. You can always take your yoga with you when you travel. The point of it is to feel better. It doesn't really matter how you look, but again, we don't want to be a complete nutcase in the airport. Happy holidays, whatever you're doing, safe travels. Namaste.
But the whole point of the machine is to relieve you of that suffering.